to the 2023 Maquoketa High School Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony. We have a fantastic night ahead of us. Unfortunately, we did not get the weekend started out the way that we wanted to. Mother Nature did not cooperate at the home Cardinal victory last night. And unless you were a duck, it probably was not a place you wanted to be. It was awfully wet, but again, we are here tonight to celebrate you, so thank you for being with us here tonight. The Maquoketa High School Hall of Fame is really an eclectic group. From a Nobel laureate to a homegrown journalist that highlighted the best in every athlete he ever wrote about, from a starting NFL quarterback to a 3-time world champion bareback rider. From a wrestler who never lost a mat in high school and went on to be a 2-time NCAA wrestling champion, to a legendary vocal instructor and educator that led countless vocalists in Maquoketa and throughout the state and nationally. Philanthropist whose name are on the side of the Children's Hospital, and an artist who had her work displayed at the Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery, and many, many others. So, what a group. Tonight, we're here to add to that prestigious group. Educators, leaders, athletes, administrators, and those that made the ultimate sacrifice. Haley, Dennis, Kim, Ron, Gerald, and Ron. Welcome to your new home, the Maquoketa High School Hall of Fame. Before we move on to the events of the evening, I'd like to thank a few people. First of all, I would like to thank the Country Club. Thank you for hosting us here this evening. We would like to thank Geronimo's Catering. I know they're cleaning up and sneaking out the back door, but thank you, Geronimo. And also, we'd like to thank Missy Dostal for the donation of the cupcakes, the cookies, and the cake here this evening. So again, thank those people for it. We also would like to thank our table sponsors. Take a time to look through your program, look on your table as you're walking around and see the table placards that are out there. We truly appreciate all of our table sponsors for being with us here this evening. So a round of applause for our table sponsors. Also, I need to thank our Hall of Fame committee. If you're a Hall of Fame committee member, as I call your name, please stand up. Tom Grunwald, Doug Nickram, Jeff Tampier, Kent Crawford, Tracy Waller, Dan Piercy, Lisa Etkin, Kevin Bowman, and Devin Harden. Without these people and their work, we wouldn't be here tonight. Let's give them a round of applause. And ladies and gentlemen, especially tonight, we need to thank you, all of you. Without you, tonight doesn't happen. Because of you, we have nominees, and you are here tonight to celebrate them. So again, give yourselves a round of applause. We appreciate it. You know, the Hall of Fame grew from just an idea back in 2014 to where it is today. The first class we actually celebrated and inducted in 2016, and we have celebrated greatness each year since then with one hiatus due to COVID. The Maquoketa High School Hall of Fame is an esteemed tribute to the outstanding past and present achievements of former Cardinals. The Maquoketa High School Hall of Fame was founded to promote pride in Maquoketa High School. The purpose of the Maquoketa High School Hall of Fame is to recognize distinguished graduates, employees, supporters that have distinguished themselves by their individual contributions in academics, athletics, fine arts, career, community service, and/or society as a whole. It truly is amazing what the individuals that have been inducted into this Hall of Fame have accomplished. So it's amazing to be part of that. At this time, I would ask anyone in the building that is currently a member of the Maquoketa High School Hall of Fame, please stand up. Again, it's always nice to have you guys back. Thank you for being here with us tonight. And we are here to add in to your group and celebrate. Now, the Hall of Fame Committee needs your help for nominations to continue our mission. We encourage everyone to submit a nomination to the committee. Don't assume someone has already been nominated to the Hall of Fame, because everyone else may have made that same assumption, and that individual may not have even been nominated. It's better to be nominated several times than not at all. Be very specific when you do nominate someone. The committee uses only the information that is in your nomination form when you submit it to judge that nomination against the others. So again, the more specific you can be with the nomination, the better, and we appreciate that. Tonight, each inductee has chosen someone very special to them to be their presenter. This person will be the one that will introduce them to the stage and invite them to speak with you at tonight's ceremony. And now, let's get on with tonight's induction ceremony. It is time for me to bring to the stage Lowell Schrader.
Very loud speaker. I'm certainly not.
Let's see if that's on. It is.
It's on. It's on. Good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight, and congratulations to the inductees of the Maquoketa High School Hall of Fame. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Lowell Schrader, and I am honored to speak on behalf of this group of inductees. I was a classmate and schoolmate of Ron Stein, Ron Sagers, and Gerald Callista. I knew each of these men and saw them every day at Maquoketa High School. I'm also a proud veteran of the Vietnam War. Unlike Sagers, Stein, Callista, and over 58,000 other casualties of Vietnam, I got to come home. The three men being inducted into the Maquoketa High School of Fame should never be forgotten. These men, their young lives were cut short by a war that no one wanted. They never got the opportunity to experience life. With the exception of Ron Sagers, they didn't get to marry. They didn't get to have kids, grandkids, have a career, buy a house, or do anything that we take for granted. They didn't get to grow old. However, they did answer the call, put on the uniform, and honorably served their country and gave the ultimate sacrifice. It is said that when one enters the military, you give the government a blank check, payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including your life. The checks were cashed for these three young men. These men were nominated as a group because to the best of our knowledge, they were the last known deaths during a military action of graduates from Maquoketa High School. This being said, they were still individuals, with each having their own story. The term hero is used almost every day in our country, and rightly so in most cases. When I give the stories of three inductees, I'm sure the term could also be applied to them. But they would probably say, I was just doing my job. I'd like to begin with Sergeant Gerald Stephen Ballista, Company E, 1st Battalion, 505th Infantry, 82nd Airborne Division, United States Army. Maquoketa High School class of 1966. Gerald's parents were Louis and Ruth Ballista. Gerald was a very quiet, almost shy kid. He didn't participate in athletics. He wasn't in band, and he wasn't in music. We knew Gerald as a tall, skinny, gangly kid who always had a smile on his face when someone said hi. And a high back would be about all you would get in return. Gerald was liked by everyone who knew him, even though he only had a couple of really good friends. Those good friends couldn't have asked for a better one. I was told by his best friend that when he was gravely ill, the first thing he saw when he finally came around was Gerald's smiling face, smiling from ear to ear. His best friend was back. Gerald was a young man of good character. Gerald was not a real good student. His study habits were poor, and he and his friends would rather be working on cars and messing around than be in school. But with his friends helping him study, he made it through and graduated. Gerald and his buddies were into muscle cars. He had a '68 Mustang. His friends liked road runners. They spent a lot of time in Davenport cruising the one-ways and eating 10 for $1 burgers at McDonald's. They would all order together. Gerald was inducted into the Army February 14, 1968, and was sent directly to Vietnam after advanced training school. He attained the rank of sergeant while in Vietnam. Sergeant Ballista lost his life on June 5, 1969, in theGie Dinh Province, Republic of Vietnam. There are conflicting reports as to how Sergeant Ballista was killed. One report stated he was providing bridge security on airboats near Saigon. Another report said he was killed by an IED while on bridge patrol. And yet another stated he was killed as they were flowing up a bridge to slow enemy advancement. I received a phone call from a classmate who was in basic training with Gerald. They never saw each other again after basic. He did, however, run into one of Gerald's soldier friends who served with him in Vietnam. He confirmed he was killed on bridge security near Saigon. He also stated that Sergeant Ballista was one hell of a soldier. Sergeant Ballista had been in Vietnam for 10.5 months and was to be moved to the rear and begin preparing to go home the next day. He was 21 years old. Sergeant Ballista was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart. He had previously been awarded the Bronze Star for heroism and the Army Commendation Medal and other actions. The Bronze Star is the 4th highest honor given in the military. An old neighbor of the Ballistas told the story that Gerald had sent a little teddy bear to his mother. It arrived the same day the Army came and notified him of his death. With us tonight are Sergeant Ballista's niece, Donna Gilbert, from Antioch, Illinois, and nephew, Richard Ballista. The Ballistas have asked Carl Keeney to say just a few words. Carl?
Carl, you can take, don't smush that, take it out of the holder. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Now, good evening, everybody. Thanks to the committee for putting this on. I really appreciate it. And I won't speak too long, but I just did want to say that Lowell had contacted me about nominating Gerald for the Hall of Fame. Just Ron, the two Rons, as I say. And I was very honored to give him some input because Gerald and I were both pretty much alike, very quiet, shy kids, but we did everything together. We rode our bikes until the tubes were burned out, and he and I knew each other very well, and I can still remember the day when he talked about his mother giving the teddy bear, and I was the first one that she called to let know that Gerald had killed in Vietnam. And I'm very proud to be his friend. I always hope he, the day I die, and hope that I get to see him in heaven. But he was a very kind, caring, loving friend. And I want his family, that are here tonight, were very young when he was killed. They were little children, his brothers, older children. So I want them to know that he was an awesome, caring individual, and I'm very happy to have him as a friend. He will go. Thank you.
Next, I'll talk about my classmate, Corporal Ronald Martin Stein, Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marine Division, United States Marine Corps. Ron's parents were Marvin and Irene Stein. Ron Stein was a very popular student at Maquoketa High School. I don't think there was anyone in school who didn't know him. He was always friendly, outgoing, never flaunted his abilities. He was a very well-liked individual. Ron was also a good athlete, an exceptional track man. Ron set or tied records that would last for 20 years. He was very well known around the Walnut Conference and the state for his speed. Ron was a sprinter in every sense of the word, whether it was the 100, the 220, or the 440-yard dash. You better be ready for him because he would beat you. Ron qualified for the state tournament and the dashes or a relay 3 straight years. His senior year was plagued with injuries and all again to distract career. I doubt if his letter jacket could have held any more medals. Ron also lettered in football and baseball. There's not enough time here to list all of his athletic accomplishments. The Steins moved to Waterloo after Ron's graduation. Ron worked at the Waterloo Corrugated Box Company with plans to attend Iowa Teachers College before entering the Marines. I'd like to talk about his sacrifice. Ron Stein entered the Marine Corps in February 1966. He received his training at Camp Pendleton, California. And on April 22nd, 1966, Ron earned the title United States Marine. Private Stein was sent to Vietnam in August of 1966, where he would achieve the rank of corporal. Corporal Stein would be wounded 3 times in 5 months. He was wounded in November 1966 and again in February 1967, returning to duty each time. Having completed his tour, Corporal Stein was on board a ship to Japan when the ship was called back to a large NVA offensive. His final injuries occurred in the Quang Tri province, Republic of Vietnam. In Vietnam, to control a hilltop was strategic. You could control a large area if you kept the hill. The Battle of Quai Son was conducted in northwest Quang Tri province, starting in 1967 and extending viciously throughout 1968. It was the longest, deadliest, and most controversial battle of the Vietnam War. The cost of American lives has been estimated to be around 1,000. Corporal Stein had previously been awarded 2 Purple Hearts. In his last battle at Hill 778 near Quezon, Corporal Stein suffered wounds from small arms fire and shrapnel. If he had mentioned his previous injuries, he would have automatically been sent home. He didn't. Having been assigned as a platoon leader, he refused evacuation to stay with his platoon. On May 9, 1967, while being treated for his wounds in the field hospital tent, he was overrun and all were lost. 23 other Marines lost their lives in that battle. The Marines suffered their largest casualties of the war during the hill fights, which is documented in the book by the same title. His unit was scheduled to leave again the next day. His 3rd Purple Heart was awarded posthumously. He also received the Marine Corps Presidential Unit Commendation and the Vietnam Gallantry Cross. Corporal Stein was 20 years old. With us tonight is Ron's nephew, Dr. Jeffrey Stein, and his wife Joyce from Arizona. Jeff would like to say a few words.
Can everyone hear me? Yes. Ron Stein is my uncle. Not was, is. I was 5 years old in 1967 when he was killed in action. My memories of him were as a 5-year-old, riding on his shoulder, ice cream cones, fireworks, fair, and this little mechanical beetle that he loved to scare the bejesus out of you with. He was much more than that. He was a son, he was a brother, he was a cardinal, and he was a Marine. Excuse me. Not as good as that. My dad told me my uncle was the kind of person who wasn't going to let you beat him. Over the course of the past week I've spent here in Maquoketa, I've heard from many people about the positive effect that he had on their lives. He was a fierce competitor. He carried that with him to the end. As Lowell said a few moments ago, my uncle had the opportunity to return home. The day before he was killed in action, his squad leader was killed, and he was appointed leader of his squad. He refused to leave his squad without a leader for a second day in a row. That cost him his life. I know he was a great athlete. As Lowell said about his jacket, and I've seen that jacket, just wearing that thing around would have made anybody strong of shoulder. As a freshman, he was the fastest sprinter that Maquoketa had. And he had an opportunity to be one of the few to letter 5 times in any one sport at Maquoketa High School. That was baseball. For his senior year, he chose to work in order to be able to save money to go to school. He never got that opportunity. My dad's favorite story of Ron comes from a track meet in Marion in 1963. My dad had graduated. My uncle was a sophomore. Dad sat in the stands next to Coach Jim Dahlberg and noticed that my uncle was entered in the 440. He's never run the 440, and at this track meet was the defending Iowa State Class 1A champion. My dad asked Coach Culver, why was he entering Ron in this? He said, Ron was getting a little cocky, needed to be taken down a peg or two. Ron won the race. I don't know if my uncle was cocky or not. There may be some of you in this room that do, but I don't think Coach Dahlberg's plan worked. One of the biggest meets of the year in and year out, the Gateway Classic. Multiple schools from around eastern Iowa gathered to run some of the best at their work. It was a rare feat to repeat as a champion in any event at the Gateway. My uncle won the 100 as a freshman, a sophomore, and a junior. Only an injury kept him from the opportunity to repeat 4 times. My uncle's time on this earth was short, but I think he made a big splash. The ripples from that splash created positive things for this community and far beyond. I'd like to take a moment to thank Noel Schrader for spearheading the movement that got this started. Those of you in here that sent emails, made phone calls, sent applications, that got these 3 men acknowledged this evening. I'd like to thank the committee for taking those applications seriously and honoring those men tonight. I only wish my uncle could be here to accept the award for himself. Semper Fi, Brady.
Sergeant Gerald Stephan Ballista's name can be found on panel 23 West, line 78, the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. Sergeant Gerald Ballista is buried in Mount Hope Cemetery, Western District. Corporal Ronald Martin Stein's name can be found on panel 19E, line 75, the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. Stein is buried in the Geyser Cemetery, Geyser, Iowa. Rest in peace, Marine. Lastly, Staff Sergeant Ronald Ray Sayers, LBD, 1st Battalion, Air Mobile, 5th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division, Air Mobile. Maquoketa High School class of 1964. Ron was the son of Hugo Alois Sagers. Ron Sagers was a popular student and an outstanding athlete. He was a 3-sport letterman. He was a 4-year letterman in wrestling, a 3-time WOMAC champ, and 2-time state qualifier. Ron also lettered in football and track, having successful careers in both. He was also on student council and participated in vocal music. After high school, Ron attended the University of Dubuque, where he continued his wrestling career. He was an Iowa Conference champion twice. Ron was also in student government and a president of his fraternity. Ron was married less than a year to Lynn Buell before he was drafted in October 1968. His tour in Vietnam, I believe, started November 11th, 1969. Staff Sergeant Sagers was actually among the first U.S. troops to enter Cambodia. His death occurred on May 22nd, 1970, near Oran, Cambodia. It was there his action in battle earned him the Silver Star. The citation reads, "The President of the United States of America, authorized by Act of Congress, July 9th, 1918, amended by an Act of July 25th, 1963, takes pride in presenting the Silver Star posthumously to Staff Sergeant Ronald Ray Sagers, United States Army, gallantry in connection with military operations against an opposing force in the Republic of Cambodia, while serving with Company D, 1st Battalion, Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division. And a large number of enemy snipers suddenly opened fire, wounding several friendly troops, including Staff Sergeant Sabers. Ignoring his wounds, he began treating and evacuating the wounded. Placing his men in a defensive perimeter, he then moved from position to position to maintain control and encourage his comrades. His gallant action was in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflects great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. The Silver Star Medal is the third highest combat decoration that can be awarded to a member of the U.S. Armed Forces. The only higher awards are the Service Crosses and the Medal of Honor. Staff Sergeant Sagers was also posthumously awarded the Bronze Star with 1st and 2nd Oak Leaf Clusters. The 1st Oak Leaf Cluster represents heroism. He also received his 2nd Air Medal, the Purple Heart, and Good Conduct Medal. Staff Sergeant Sagers was 25 years old. With us tonight are Ron's nieces, Ray Zimmerman, Rhonda Hulsby, and Kelly Kavanaugh. Staff Sergeant Ronald Ray Sager's name can be found on Paddle 10 West, line 83 of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. Staff Sergeant Sagers is buried in the East Iron Hill Cemetery. Rest in peace, Ron. Being the chaplain of the Upon Reckoning Post 3633 of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, I would like to offer the prayer we use each month for our departed comrades. Lord Jesus Christ, you have shown us that death is but the gateway to a more glorious life, and that we must not fear its coming. We know also that neither life nor death can separate us from your love. Assure us yet again that our departed comrades are not lost to us, but sharing new life with you in the kingdom of our Father, where we shall, in your good time, be reunited. We know they will be with you forever. In closing, we have 3 men, 5 Purple Hearts, 2 Bronze Stars, the Silver Star, and numerous other awards. Gerald Callista, Ron Stein, and Ron Sagers not only honorably and heroically represented Maquoketa High School, their community, and their country, they died for it. To our 3 fallen Vietnam veterans, the words they never got to hear: thank you for your service and welcome home.
And to help honor Gerald, Ron, and Ron, we have a trophy that we would like to present to the VFW to keep at the post home if there ever is one again, or to keep with you. And we also have one individually for each family. So, Lowell, I'm going to give you our appreciation trophy for the group themselves, all right? For the Sagers family, I want to present that to you and say thank you for your family's service. The Callista family, can you hand that back? Thank you. And for the Stein family, once again, Lowell, thank you for your leadership. Mr. Davis, I know, is in the crowd as well. Thank you for the leadership there as well. And ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our 3 fallen soldiers, Gerald, Ron, and Ron. Thank you. And now, again, to remind each of my speakers, keep that mic close to you if you can. We want everybody to hear everybody's stories as well. So it is my pleasure at this time to to bring to the stage Lisa Hartzell.
Good evening. I'd like to start off by thanking Coach Fleming, who proposed the nomination for my dad, and the Hall of Fame committee for bestowing this honor on him. Trying to get him here tonight, I appreciate that opportunity as well. Those of you that know him know just how excited he has been about all of this fuss. When I got the call from Bob with instructions of what to do, the last thing he mentioned was a picture. And if you know my dad, you know how fun that was. Needless to say, trying to get everything together and make sure he actually got here has been a lot of fun the past few months. In all seriousness, we couldn't be more proud to be here and sharing this recognition with him. I can't think of anyone more deserving. He would stand here and tell you that everything he has done has never been about receiving recognition or awards. He has lived and worked his entire life with a true servant's heart. The first traits would be humility and being observant of the needs of those around him. My dad has always thought of others before himself. He would see someone that needed help and would act. For example, numerous students stayed with us for whatever amount of time they needed. He made meals for students who didn't have their own. Mr. Streets would often show up and knock on doors to pick up students to make sure they made it to school, or would drive them home at the end of the day or after practice. And he may have attended a party or two to make sure everyone got home safely. Another trait of having a servant's heart is compassion. He could always tell when a student needed a pick-me-up, a discussion about decisions and choices that were made, or maybe just a hello to let them know they've been seen and were important. He recognized and noticed these things in the students he worked with for over 4 decades in the halls of MCHS. Many times over the years, the phone would ring, geometry or math questions, and he would take the time to answer them. Even when he was out of the classroom, students would seek him out, and he would help tutor them in math. The last trait needed for a servant's heart is a sense of responsibility. He has always demonstrated a loyalty to help and serve others in his community and Maquoketa Community School District. He taught for 42 years and coached for 44. He always made himself and his home available to help anyone needing it. He may be our dad, but he has served as a father figure to many in this town. He began his teaching career in Maquoketa under emergency certification in the 1965-66 school year. While student teaching, a position opened up unexpectedly and he was asked to fill it. During his time at MCHS, he taught geometry, Algebra 1, and general math. He was also Dean of Students for several years. He coached varsity baseball for 10 and freshman for 2. He also assumed the role as sophomore football coach in the fall of 1966, and throughout his career coached over 33 years in various positions. It is very rare to find a coach who is content to spend his entire career coaching at the same level. But Dad spent 42 years coaching sophomore basketball, where he collected an overall record of 503 wins to 234 losses by the time he retired in 2008. His basketball records speak for themselves. During his time as coach, his teams won 17 conference championships and had 5 undefeated seasons. Between 1986 and 89, his teams went 39-1. And if Bill Fleming were here today, he would tell you that he did it without some of his best players. He has been a husband, father, grandfather, farmer, teacher, coach, and businessman. And through each, he has made an impact on every life he has touched. Andy Andrews wrote in his book, The Noticer, while it is true that most people never see or understand the difference they make, or sometimes only imagine their actions having a tiny effect, every single action a person takes has far-reaching consequences. That can be said for my dad as well. Chris, Sheila, and myself, and many other former students and players have entered education and coaching to hopefully do the same and make an impact similar to him. I'd like to end by saying, Dad, you will never know the extent of your impact on this community and others. But then again, you wouldn't say anything if you didn't. Thank you.
Well, I'm very humbled to get this award. I don't feel that I've done any more than any other educator Maquoketa has done over the years. I was very blessed when I came here to walk into a very, very strong staff, teachers and educators. And they taught me probably more than I taught the students I had. Probably one of the most influential things that I had happen to me when I came to practice teach and got emergency certification. About 3 weeks into teaching on my own, I had a student commit suicide. And that really changed what I thought about education. And I spent basically the rest of my career making sure that I was more aware of what was going on in the student's life and what problems they needed help with. And that made me, I think, a better teacher and a better person. As a result, I hope that I affected people and students the right way. And I want to thank the patrons and supporters of Maquoketa High School in having enough confidence in me to let me have some freedom with their students as far as help, time, and education. And for the athletes that I was privileged enough to coach, they accepted what we did and how we did it. And I guess I'm very proud of the way most of them all have turned out. Every student that I had. Some take longer than others. I'm sure. But overall, almost all of them get there if you give them enough time and have enough patience. And I guess I practiced the patience. So thank you very much.
As Coach Streets is making it back to his seat, I know there's a lot of Maquoketa graduates out there, so if by chance you had Coach Streets for geometry, and it's because of him you remember SOHCAHTOA, please raise your hand. All right, there you go, Coach, right there's the number that you know that it's a pretty good size. So, well, again, it's my pleasure to be your MC tonight. I appreciate everybody being here. We appreciate everybody putting up with the tight quarters, because we have celebration. We love to celebrate these people this evening. So at this point, it is my pleasure to bring to the stage Sarah Nelson.
Good evening. Well, I should start by introducing myself. I'm Sarah Nelson. I was the softball coach from 2005 until the summer of 2021. And I was lucky enough to be one of the coaches of our next inductee. So it is my honor to introduce Haley Bickford as our next inductee. She called me, or no, she emailed me and said, "Hey coach, you think you could do something for me?" I'm like, oh God, here we go. What? No, just kidding. You know what? It's an honor to have a past player contact you years later for something as special and as big as this event. So she asked me to give a speech, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll just treat it like my classroom. All right, you guys are all my students, and I'll try to project my voice. But as I sat there and I pondered about what to write in this speech, I decided to look up the definition of the word athlete. And according to Google, because we Google everything, I do anyways, an athlete is a person who is proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise. A broad definition, to say the least. When I think of Haley and I reflect back on her hard work, dedication, and commitment to her craft as an athlete, the word proficient doesn't seem to encapsulate the amount of time, energy spent perfecting the details. Details that included the ability to keep negative emotions in check, teamwork, mental toughness, physical toughness, and hours of training, knowledge of the game, a willingness to learn and be coached, and the continued notion to remain a student of the game. A willingness to learn and a willingness to be a student of the game is a huge part of her success. An individual desire and dedication toward the improvement of fundamentals and skills at practice with her teammates and then later in the backyard. A fearless young woman willing to try out for travel teams with other athletes from different schools and also perform at a high level of skill. And of course, a family that supported her in her endeavors to be better than she was yesterday. The word proficient seems to fall short of Haley Everhart's desire to be a good teammate, second baseman, and pitcher on the mound for the Maquoketa softball program. The first home run hit off of Haley as a pitcher, I hope my memory is correct. I believe I called a timeout, walked out to the mound and said, "Welcome to the home run club for pitchers, kid." You see, even the best pitchers have a home run hit off of them multiple times throughout their career. As an 8th grader, Haley was able to mentally reset for the next batter after that home run and continue to take charge off the mound, a skill that takes many years to perfect. Haley also hit her fair share of home runs. Early in her high school career, Haley hit in the number 4 spot in the batting lineup. She had made a name for herself in the Walnut Conference and surrounding schools. When opponents talked about Maquoketa softball, they talked about Haley and how good she was on the mound and at the plate. Teams would try to intentionally walk her. It seemed like Central DeWitt would try to walk Haley at least once. Back then, softball pitchers still had to throw to the batter for an intentional walk. I remember having a conversation with Haley before she stepped in the batter's box at the Bellevue tournament. We were playing Preston, and Coach Jess had instructed his pitcher to intentionally walk Haley. I quickly reminded Haley to crowd the crap out of the plate and hit any ball that came close to the outside corner because that pitcher was going to make a mistake and we were going to capitalize. Pretty sure I didn't say crap though. But by the second or third pitch, that mistake was made and Haley hit a bomb down the line over the right field fence. A home run instead of an intentional walk. When our lineup got stronger and more threatening as a whole, Haley was moved to the number 3 spot, which protected her from being intentionally walked, because the next threat was Kelsey Bowman in the 4 spot. No team could afford to intentionally walk 2 hitters in a row with the threat of a number 5 like Brittany Hayes, who was like a second leadoff hitter. The kind of hitter that was patient in the box, could foul off jump hit pitches, and either bunt or hit for a single or double to move and score runners. The heart of our lineup was solid. As I reflect on Haley's softball career at Maquoketa, I think to myself, in order to reach such accomplishments and receive the accolades and awards that Haley has received, the word mastery instead of proficient does a better job of describing the type of athlete Haley is and was during her years at Maquoketa High School and then later as a collegiate athlete at Western Illinois University in Macomb. At this time, I am honored to introduce Hall of Fame inductee, Haley Eberhardt.
Thank you, Coach Nelson. I have a few stories throughout my speech that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Good evening. First, I want to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for choosing me to be inducted in this year's Hall of Fame class. I also want to congratulate my fellow inductees. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Huckstadt was my superintendent while I was in Maquoketa, and Mr. Streets was my dean of students. As a 2010 graduate, I would have never guessed that 13 years later, I would be inducted at the same time as some of my administrators. I'm very honored. I have many memories I want to share about my time as a Maquoketa Cardinal, but for the sake of time, I'll address some highlights. Basketball, soccer, and softball were the three sports I played in high school, and they all shaped me into the person I am today. I was pretty good at defense and basketball, and I would make a shot from time to time. Soccer was offered for the first time during my freshman year of high school, and track really wasn't my thing. So I went out for soccer after not playing since kindergarten. I love the physicality of basketball and soccer, but softball was by far my most treasured sport. In my biography for this induction, you can read about the stats and awards that I worked hard to earn, but what I took away from my time as a Maquoketa Cardinal was all of the memories and life lessons my coaches, teammates, teachers, supporters, and competitors taught me. The moments on the field were good for the newspapers and the stat books, but the moments off the field are the ones I carry with me forever. Moments like the bus rides, the pre-game sing-alongs, and the post-game chats after a tough loss. Those moments are what helped me build lifelong skills like teamwork, resiliency, and perseverance. I'm honored to share some of those moments with you tonight. My all-time favorite memory as a Cardinal was making it to the state softball tournament during my senior year. We all worked so hard to compete at the highest level. From my 8th grade year to my junior year, we would come so close to making it, but fall 1 or 2 games short. My senior season, we had 7 seniors. These days, I would consider that pretty rare. We battled the losses we had the years before us, and I'm quite certain we scared all of the underclassmen who joined us for our senior year. We were going to make it to Fort Dodge that season, and if they weren't on board, they weren't in the right place. The bond I made with my teammates and coaches on the road to Fort Dodge is truly unforgettable. I wish they could all be up here with me tonight, because without any of them, I would not have been as successful as I was. One of my other favorite memories as a Cardinal was seeing Mr. Jack Marlowe at every sporting event. During my high school career, he was still writing articles for the newspaper, and I would love to read all of his work. I have never met someone who can write in so much detail and remember all of the details of many games he attended. For years, when I see Jack, we have talked about our game against Anamosa that went into 17 innings. It was the first game of a doubleheader, and we ended up playing 24 innings total that night. It was my longest pitcher's duel. It was the longest pitcher's duel of my career, and we ended with a victory. Jack had the best write-up about it in the paper that week and shared his perspective from the stands, while I've enjoyed sharing my perspective from the mound over the years. At the end of my senior season, there was a knock at my front door, and it was Jack Marlowe. He had a thick book full of my stats that he created, and I remember him saying, "I made this for you, but if you don't want it, you can just throw it away." Like I would ever do that. That book is something I still cherish and I still have to this day. I have no doubt that I was not the only person he did this for, but it is the perfect example of hard work and dedication he put into Maquoketa athletics and how much he cared. Jack, it's so good to see you tonight. I said I would keep this short and to the point, but there are a few life lessons that sports have taught me. One of these lessons is punctuality. Coach Nelson always said, if you are 15 minutes early, you are late. And boy, has that stuck with me throughout my life. I will never forget a few times I was late to practice and had to run from foul pole to foul pole. Now, in softball, most of the time you are running from home to first. If you are lucky, you're able to sprint from home to second or home to third. I always enjoyed going from home plate to home plate, but at that point I was trotting because I hit the ball over the fence. So running foul pole to foul pole felt like a marathon for softball players. Let's just say after being late a couple of times, I was never late to practice again. And now, as a teacher and a mom, you can find me 15 minutes early to appointments and meetings. So thank you, Coach Nelson, for making me on time for my appointments for the rest of my life. The next lesson sports gave me was managing failure. Softball especially is a game of failure. Our senior season, we expected a lot of success, and we experienced it. One night, we traveled all the way to Benton-Shellsburg, who was in last place in our conference, expecting a win. Well, most of us know what happens when we expect a win. You end up losing. The bus ride home was quiet, and as we approached Maquoketa, Coach Nelson said, "Take your bags to the dugout and get your cleats on." I remember pulling out my old flip phone and looking at the screen and seeing it was approaching midnight. Once we got to the field, we turned on the field lights, and she explained that we had 23 at-bats that night and only got on base twice. She took the difference and had us run 21 pulls before lining up for batting practice under the lights. I remember a cop showing up to make sure there was no trouble. And I think he saw how hard she was pitching the ball at us and turned right back around. Again, we almost hate running, but we hit pretty darn good for the rest of the season. Hitting under those lights at midnight is one of the stories repeatedly shared with my teammates whenever we get together these days. It's kind of crazy when we look back at it, but I believe that night Coach Nelson taught us all how to recognize what went wrong, attack the problem, and create a solution. I still find myself utilizing those skills in everyday life. I know it sounds like I'm attacking Coach Nelson and how many pulls she made us run, but she taught me a lot about how to be good at what you do and remain humble in how you present yourself. As my coach, she taught me discipline and poise. During college, I was able to return in the summers and coach alongside her. She then taught me more about logistics of the game and how to manage a team. Coaching high school girls is not for the faint of heart. As we have progressed through our careers, I am honored to still have her as a resource and a good friend. Coach Nelson, thank you for all of the memories you have provided me and for all of the support you have given me. The list is too long to thank every coach, teacher, and teammate I had during my career, but I want them all to know that I learned and took away at least one thing from every single person I came in contact in all of the sports that I played. I also need to thank my family. They have all followed along with me from the beginning years of travel sports to the last game I played. It is very rare that someone's parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins show up to every single game. I was one of those lucky ones. Every high school game of mine was like a family gathering, and I loved it and cherished it. My grandparents traveled many, many miles to watch me play, and we still love reminiscing about those times. My aunts and uncles would bring all of my cousins to my games to watch me. And now that I am a mom, I understand that is no easy feat. Thank you for all of your continuing to support me and being here with me tonight to share this moment. To my parents, I am still trying to wrap my head around all of the hours you put into my sporting events. You always supported my drive to be the best I can be, even if that meant taking drop balls to the shed. Sorry, Dad. Or hearing an aluminum bat on the hit-away repeatedly from the moment I got home from school until bedtime. Sorry, Mom. I am forever grateful for your support during my career and beyond. You have always been my biggest cheerleaders, and I love you both so much. My brother and sister are also here tonight. You also made many sacrifices to attend my games and practices while growing up. I was so honored to hear that my brother was the one who nominated me for this award. Despite our age difference, we have always shared such a special bond through sports. He was a great athlete himself, and I enjoyed sharing struggles and triumphs with him during our careers. My sister Taylor and I share many memories together practicing in our side yard. Sometimes it would end with excitement of finally mastering a new spin of a pitch, and other times it ended in one of us storming in the house after fighting if the ball was fair or foul. Tay was an 8th grader during my senior year, and we were able to share the state tournament berth together. I was also able to come back and coach her from her freshman to senior year. The memories we shared during our high school years will always hold a special place in my heart. Beyond high school, sports have remained in my life. I went on at the collegiate level to play for Western Illinois University. I had one redshirt year due to an arm injury and graduated with a bachelor's in exercise science. During my time at WIU, I was able to travel and play some of the top teams in the nation. Some of the highlights were playing at Arizona State, University of Oklahoma, and University of Alabama, who all ended up being the national champions the year we would play. We're not gonna ask what the score was to those games. We played them and it was fun. Some other highlights was being able to play at Auburn, Kentucky, Georgia, and University of Hawaii. I am grateful I was able to play some of the best competition in the world and travel to the places I otherwise wouldn't have. After college, I coached at the high school and collegiate level. I have coached and helped with local travel teams, and I have given many, many individual lessons throughout my life. I have truly enjoyed every kiddo I have worked with, and I believe a lot of them have impacted my life more than I could have ever impacted theirs. Currently, I play the most important role as wife and mom. My husband Sean and our daughter Nora mean the world to me, and I'm so thankful to have them in my life. Softball is still very much part of my world. My husband Sean and I had our first date at a softball field. He is the director of grounds at Northeast Community School District, and after watching a few girls I was giving lessons to play ball on his field, I helped him fix his mount. He does amazing work, but I have to say the softball field has never looked better since I came around. Nora is starting to play youth sports, and I can't wait to see where that leads her. Although there is no pressure from me, she has already taken on the pitching position and loves to practice. I have begun coaching some of her sports. Remember when I said coaching high school girls is not for the faint of heart? Yeah, well, either word is a group of 6-year-olds. All jokes aside, I love working with kids and sharing my knowledge and experiences. I earned my master's degree in special education, and I'm currently a teacher for the Mississippi Bend AEA at the Partnership School in DeWitt. I love my job, and I believe a lot of the characteristics I bring to the classroom come from my experience as a student and an athlete at Maquoketa High School. I truly enjoyed my time as a Maquoketa Cardinal, and I am so grateful for this recognition. Thank you again to the Hall of Fame Committee, and thank you all for allowing me to share my memories with you tonight.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. And now, the evening moves very quickly when we get going on this stuff. It's just amazing and it's awesome to listen to these talks. So we are at our final inductee tonight. And so it is my great pleasure at this time to bring to the stage our presenters for our final inductee, Jeannie Caraway and Mindy Wing-Reimer.
Great day to be a Cardinal. Beautiful faces. Well, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and distinguished colleagues, tonight we have the distinct honor of introducing an individual whose impact on the Maquoketa community has been nothing short of legendary. Dr. Kim Huckstead is a name synonymous with integrity, excellence, and an unwavering commitment to his profession. It is with great honor and pride that we gather here to celebrate his induction into the Cardinal Hall of Fame. We all would be remiss not to mention his son Tate and his wife Luann, who is his rock. All of our hearts are with her tonight as well. I have had the pleasure to have worked closely with Huck through all of his phases of his tenure. When he asked if I'd be willing to team with Jeannie to give this introduction, it was an easy answer. For one, to be sharing the stage with the Jeannie Caraway, right? She was a member of the power duo, the Jeannie and Jen show. You remember that, right? I was instantly humbled.
She's 8 years younger than I am. For me, those were Rhonda Disney, Angie Beach.
So getting this opportunity to induct a great man to be among the Cardinal greats is such an honor. And two, I do know it is highly likely this is the closest I will ever be to any Hall of Fame recognition. So thank you for that, Kim. To be standing here is truly a privilege. We have so much gratitude to the committee who go to great lengths to make these recognitions happen. So Bob and the committee, well done. It's no secret, I have great parents. Mike is here tonight, and we all know him, and most of us love him. Also, we know it was always their intention to have amazing people like Kim and Lou in our lives. The Wing kids would say they have been family. Kim has always been there for all of us, sharing the great moments and even the tough ones. And the good Lord knows my three brothers especially needed the extra support and guidance in their lives. You know them, yeah. With that said, I've known Kim for a very long time. As a teacher, my coach, which was not my personal favorite experience, as a colleague, as a principal, a superintendent, and now I am blessed to be learning again from Dr. Huckstead as my professor, who has a gift of teaching aspiring superintendents incredibly challenging concepts like Iowa school finance. There are so many things I could say about him given each of these phases of his career. And what I will share is that it's been always very clear to me that he has possessed an unparalleled passion and an extraordinary ability to lead and inspire. He thrives in environments where he is able to serve, and I believe he is most fulfilled when potential is realized. Kim has always been a man of integrity who had great conviction and vision. Through relentless hard work, deep thinking, many signature mustache strokes, and his ability to foster relationships has always made his vision turn into a reality. His leadership style was unmatched by his spirited approach to cardinal conditioning, although Coach Nelson, I feel like you might have challenged that a little bit, and his uncanny ability to make girls cry. His teams became a testament to his leadership. The Cardinal female greats displayed high levels of discipline, always focused on camaraderie and an unyielding pursuit to impress this left-handed shooter from the big leagues of Beloit College. And with that, I'll turn to Keith.
I tried to ask Mindy to please not introduce me like with a "the" in front of it, but she didn't listen. And then her husband didn't help me either. I said, "What influence do you have over her?" She can't do that. I'm so happy to be here today. This is my thing. I now live in South Dakota. Some of you may recognize me. You haven't seen me for 30-some years. And I'm just so happy to be here today. Just thinking about why in the world would Kim want, and we were asking why he wanted us to do this. We both recognize that we easily have hundreds of folks to do this. How I know Dr. Kim P. Huckstad is that I think he had on his vita that he doesn't coach basketball plow ball, but we knew that was wrong. And so I played basketball with Huck, both in the 6-on-6 game, and then it switched over in the 85-86 season, and we then had the first team that played 5-on-5. And so I remember Huck is in 4-H, and a lot of the M-line players' grades came out, and then he was recruiting, refereeing when he was first in Maquoketa, and he would, I think I was 9 years old, and then on our team was the Cruz girls, and I don't know their married names now, I'm sorry, Rhonda Disney, Robin Davidson, and then my sister and I played on those teams. So we always thought it was awesome that he was recruiting, and then so we knew it was he was recruiting young into basketball programs. He also, we were talking this afternoon, Mindy and I, we hadn't seen each other in so long, and we were comparing notes, and we really loved the Redbird Roundball camp that he had for many, many years, and what that did to the program. So Huck really had a basketball program. Now that I'm in Vermillion, now that I, with his help, went on to play Division III college, and I was always looking for programs that were like what Huckstad did here. And I've never found programs like that where he, from the get-go, was recruiting kids at a very young age, and then how do you get them in the sport, and then always dedicated to values. And it was the Luther, I knew I would do that because I was just at Luther last week. The Maquoketa blood runs deep is what Mindy said to me when he first was getting a hold of us, and the Cardinal blood runs deep, and it just was really true with the Huckstads. Jen Fleming and I were really good friends, and her dad was gone a lot with basketball, and so we were often in Huck and Luann's house, and I thought they were almost like a second family to Jen at times. So that was really awesome. Let's wind this back and revisit how Dr. Kim Huckstad started. So I teach college, so 5 minutes I'm going to be done. Right? We're nearing there, so I'll rewind it down. So Kim's originally from Bennett, Iowa. He attended Beloit College, and upon graduation accepted a position teaching at Maquoketa Middle School. His first assignment included teaching 8th grade science classes and coaching varsity girls basketball and track. As I mentioned, we thought basketball was his favorite sport, and he did a great job in then recruiting, moving from the 6-on-6 game then to the 5-on-5. Huck and Lou tried to get away from Maquoketa in 1986. I don't know why, but after my group was done, they left for 3 years. So I don't know. Yeah, if it was related or not. I know it wasn't, but I can't help but joke about that. Let's see. There's a whole bunch of stuff here that's also in your program, so I don't want to add to that too much. But we do know that Huck's folks are not with us tonight. They passed away. I think his dad died in 2000. And they would be so proud of all that Huck's done. And his mom, that he earned his doctorate degree in 2011, would be super proud. His dad, Bill Sr., Huck Sr., would be so proud of him when he's here tonight. If I may just tell a few fun things. I I saw Carrie Sheepers in the back, not Sheepers anymore. And we were talking about track practices and how it ended in puking sometimes, and how we wouldn't have us run so much. And then he also had a thing for breath. When we were talking about basketball and what Huck did, and so he wanted us to guard people so closely that we knew what gum they were chewing. And I don't know if you know Lynn Scoff, it's been Flagel, I think, now that does the ambulance. She was just, I remember one time, so this was a 6-player game, where it's 3 on one side, 3 on the other, and he told Lynn, he said, I want you to eat onions before the game, and you need to breathe down Paige Shepard's neck. We remember great fun, and it's just such an honor for us to be here to help get the stage ready for Dr. Huckstead. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with immense pleasure and deep respect that we induct Dr. Kim Huckstead into the Hall of Fame. May his legacy continue to inspire many, and may his service and contributions to the Maquoketa community be celebrated for all time. With that in mind, we need to get our Maquoketa spirit going here.
We need you all up.
Yeah, here we go.
All up.
Okay, all you Cardinal fans.
It's just humbling to be in this kind of company. My father was a Navy veteran, and we were taught from early on that we were to have the highest respect for those who served our country, and anything that I may have done pales in significance to what the 3 men did who were honored earlier. So it's very humbling to be in this company. So to their families, thank you for their service. Personally, when it comes to thank yous, it has to start with my family. Luann, my son Tate, and Raina are here. Luann's having some health challenges, and was not able to be here tonight, but she's at home. She's in good care with Vicki, and she insisted, of course, that I be here. But she is doing well and is on the mend. But I can honestly tell you, I was a piece of work in high school, and nobody would have thought I would ever be here. The things that I was doing throughout my career. And I say it somewhat lightly, but I married well. Luann has been the rock and the person who stabilized so many things at key times, and couldn't love her more. And also, Jeannie and Mindy mentioned my parents. I had great parents who loved us dearly. My brother and my sister are here tonight. My brother was 2 years older, so anyone who has an older brother knows you didn't get too cocky and mouth off too much if you had an older brother. They kept you in line. But I had a great family and was very supportive in that way. And also have so many friends here in Maquoketa that I've gotten to know really for decades. It's amazing. So, when I initially got the call about the Hall of Fame, I was honestly surprised. My first thought was that, gee, I've never really stuck with anything long enough to develop Hall of Fame credentials, because I moved through different roles and different responsibilities. And then when Mindy and Jeannie were telling me they were going to play the school fight song, I started thinking about that. And of course, the first lines are, "We're loyal to you, MHS, will always be true, MHS." And that's where I can just honestly say that it dawned on me that I was very fortunate to be able to do a number of different things, but all in the same community, all in the same school district, and for that, I'm tremendously thankful. And I was reminded that trust must be earned over time, and loyalty is a two-way street. And that's why I tell people all the time that I was so fortunate to be able to do the different things that I did, all in this wonderful town of Maquoketa. Maquoketa is home for us. And Jim Rohn captured this very well in one of his writings. He said, "Some people plant in the spring and leave in the summer. If you've signed up for the season, see it through. You don't have to stay forever, but at least stay until you see it through." And that's part of what I try to do. In reflecting on my time in Maquoketa, the truth is I was afraid when I showed up for my first teaching job in 1977. And I was still a little afraid when I walked out the door in 2014, closing out my last year as superintendent. And I don't mean fear in terms of paralyzing, but just never quite sure that you've already done everything or that you're capable of doing. And it's just that edge that keeps you knowing that you still have a lot to learn and you still have a lot to give. I can honestly say that I loved every job that I had in Maquoketa, teaching and coaching, of course, and the highlight of it all is though the people that you work with, both the students, the staff, everyone that you interact with and have an opportunity to grow with and learn with and accomplish goals with. I was very fortunate to coach some wonderful players. I learned very early that girls are way tougher than guys. Way tougher. They had great work ethic, great wins, and some very tough losses, as Haley touched on a little bit. You got to learn to take both, and you have to learn lessons from those. I was blessed to work with Jack Marlowe as well, who is the kindest critic that ever walked the face of the earth. He just couldn't write a tough word about anything. But that was a great joy. Later, the joy of seeing former players excel and be so successful has been one of the greatest rewards of this work. But I did want to say for the record, Chris Cruz did throw a basketball at me in practice, but she missed. And then I never made players run line drills for punitive purposes. Maybe once. There was a thing I felt a lot better about. I did want to touch on, just very briefly, those who opened doors for me and put their trust in me. Round one, when I was here, Gaylord Willman and Dick Holt. They drove all the way over to Beloit, Wisconsin to interview me in the summer of '77. I was taking summer classes because I changed majors, not because I flunked a bunch of them. At least that's what I told my mom. I changed majors. But anyway, but they drove up. And my first assignment at round two, I have to credit my good friend Stub Pape and Dick Wool again. We were here 9 years, left for 3, and we're coming back to Iowa, and today, I think there's a job that they want, it was a special education job for which Luann was certified, so I just put it this way, it's accurate. They needed Luann and they got stuck with me. So anyway, so then I was able to come back, and when we came back, I actually lived in Al Pape's camper for about 6 weeks out here by the fairgrounds, waiting for a place to open up. That was a good experience, but I would want to repeat it. But anyway, then my first step in the administrative side of things, I have to say that Mr. Disney, Mr. Lynn Disney, was a strong advocate and really helped me take a step into that realm. And I often refer to him as a bridge builder for me, and somehow making you think about things that you never thought you might do. And then as a middle school principal, I can honestly say that was one of the greatest times of growth and learning in my career. All driven, and I mean this sincerely, by truly great, innovative teachers. Many times you just have to get out of the way, provide resources if you can, and let them do their magic. And some of those teachers are here tonight, and I was so blessed to see them again. But that was just a great time of learning. Mr. Montaigne was supported. There was Jan Yoder at the ADA. We sent teachers to River Oak School in Ontario, Canada, to model some things. And we also had Harvard's Dr. Richard Elmore actually come to our school and talk about Rounds models because they were impressed with so many of the things that our teachers were doing. And then the next, I have to thank the many school board representatives that I worked with. They entrusted me with the superintendency for my last 13 years. Worked on some sales tax referendums, whole rate sharing agreements, a few construction projects, and college partnerships and all of that. And I always careful to put it this way, is that I got to be a part of some great work, because it's always a team effort. Then I have to also mention some of the great community support that I was able to feel at different times in different ways. During my first year, 9/11 happened, and our school district was already facing some financial challenges, and then, of course, there was an economic downturn in 2001 when that happened, and it just kind of exacerbated all of that stuff. I was on KMAQ doing a monthly show, talking about some of the challenges we were facing, and how we were going to have to, tighten the belt and do all of these things, and I have to walk out of there, and that's right next to the bank. One of our local citizens, I believe it was Dave Johnson, if I remember, but Dave just kind of asked me how it was going, and I said, Dave, it's been honestly pretty tough. It looks like we're going to have some real difficult decisions to make. And expecting, to say, well, hang in there or something like that. That's not what he said. He said, well, you applied for the job, didn't you? And that is, honestly, that's a true story. And I tell that to my students and you and I said, hey, you sign up for the job, you know what? You got the job. And that's what David was telling me, so that was a great one. Then also I would go to McDonald's early in the morning for my daily evaluation reports. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But we were always on the fire line. And one of the people that would sometimes be there was someone we all know, love, and admire, Mr. Redden. I was there, and they were sitting at the table. As a superintendent, they'd always give me a little brief about you raising this, you doing that, what are you doing, this, that, and the other thing. team effort. In my teaching at UNI, I close out every lesson with a quote from Lao Tzu. It says, when the best leader's work is done, the people will say, we did it ourselves. My goal is always to work at empowering others and leading by example. But I will also say that there were times I was not always successful in that. But I was always thankful that I lived and worked in a fair-minded community that looked upon the heart, appreciated effort, and understood that no one was perfect, but it's all about the effort. And if I could close with one of my favorite stanzas here, it's called Sermons Received by After Guest. And it says, I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I'd rather one should walk with me than merely tell the way. For the eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Fine counsel is confusing, but example is always clear. And the best of all the teachers are the ones who live their creeds. For to see good put in action is what everybody needs. I soon can learn to do it if you'll let me see it done. I can watch your hands in action, but your tongue too fast may run. And the lecture you deliver may be very wise and true, but I'd rather get my lessons by observing what you do. For I might misunderstand you in the high advice you give, but there's no misunderstanding when you act how you live. So to the committee and all that were involved in this evening, thank you for this honor and the privilege of being here tonight. And I will close with one more quote from my favorite philosopher, Jimmy Buffett. Breathe in, breathe out, move on.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, how about another round of applause for our inductees? It always amazes me when we get to the end of the night that we've made it and we've celebrated so many people. So again, to Gerald's family, to Ron's family, to Ron's family, to Haley, to Dennis's family, to Dr. Kim and your family, thank you for everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everything that you all have done for our community. Everybody, join us again next year. Stop back here and we'll have a new class in 2024. For the inductees, give us a minute. We're going to clear the stage and we want to get some photos up here of the inductees. And again, if there's any veterans that want to stick around, we would love to get a veterans photo after that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great time to be a part